Islam, Islam, Islam family. We back at it again. The Moorish experience. The Moorish experience. We are back at it again. So let's get the party started. Rising to my highest heights, giving all perfect praise to Allah, creator of creation. All right. Extending those high honors to all of the great worthies who have come down the line of divine, mainly Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, and knowing something about these four Hebrew Muslims. Hebrew meaning one who crossed over from idol worship into the one and true living God, Allah, extending those high honors to the man that we are here to discuss today, the only man that I know of who brought our nationality and birthright and keys to our vast estate. I speak of none other than the illustrious Hebrew prophet, the honorable prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of this awesome organization called the Moorish Science Temple of Divine and National Movement of North America. I want to give those greetings and extend those greetings of Islam to the man that taught me what I know of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because I didn't know anything about him until I met a man, a national grand sheikh by the name of Joel Braden Beck. I didn't know anything about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I didn't know anything about the Moorish Science Temple of Divine and National Movement of North America until I met him and was taught by him, extending those greetings of Islam to the illustrious grand body that he works with, because we are taught in this Moorish paradigm that it is one government with two very distinct jurisdictions. The head of our government, the head of the free national government that is upholding the republic, is our national grand sheikh Joel Braden Bay, who resides in Baltimore, Maryland. We want to extend those high honors to the illustrious grand body, to all of the officers within our governmental structure, all of the sheiks and sheikesses, all the deputy sheiks and deputy sheikesses, and we want to extend a hearty Islam to our future, our children, taking us down the wheel of time. We want to extend the greetings of peace to all of the people who may be watching this on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all of the social media outlets. Okay, we want to extend Islam's to you and peace, peace, peace. Now, that being said, let's get the party started. So we back at it again. We are back at it again. So I'm going to get right to the business. Right to the business. All right. This hopefully we pray Allah, I always say this, that hope this don't take too long. But then I look at my clock and I'm like, okay, 3 hours later, here we go. We're gonna try not to hold your attention that long today. So I always like to get the party started with something that catches your attention. If you've been watching me for any limit of time, you know I want to get the party started with something that makes it very, very clear. So this is something here dealing with a man by the name of John D. Rockefeller Sr. You may have heard of him, John D. Rockefeller Sr. John D. Rockefeller Sr. created what is called the General Education Board. The General Education Board is what currently controls the educational system within the United States. So, whatever you have learned in the public school system, whatever you have learned in college, whatever you have learned in pretty much society has come through this General Education Board. So, they control the information, thereby controlling how you think thereby controlling how you move in society, because you can only do what you know how to do. So in the year 1902, I need you to lock in with me, because our organization, the Moorish Science Temple of Divine and National Movement of North America, created in 1917. Okay, so let's understand that this is a few years prior to that. General Education Board was created. Dumbing down of Americans begin. In our dreams, people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present education conventions of intellectual and character education fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we worked our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of science. We have not raised up from them authors, educators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. The task is simple. We will organize children and teach them in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. John D. Rockefeller Sr., 1839 to 1937. He was an industrialist and also the founder of Standard Oil and the General Education Board, 1906. Now, understand this. I kicked it off like this because what has happened here recently is that we have had a holiday, federal holiday, called Juneteenth. And many Black folks are currently running around celebrating Juneteenth. And for the most part, you only know what you know. Let me explain to you what Europeans do. And when I say Europeans, let me break it down into language that you readily understand, which is white folks, since they are controlling the education that you and I have both received. One of the things that Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated was, in order to change a people, you must first change their literature. You have to change what they are reading. You have to change what they see. You have to change their mind. You have to change their religion. And when I say change your religion, I'm not necessarily talking about going to a church or a synagogue or a temple or a cloister, if you will. I'm not talking about that type of religion. I'm talking about your culture, your fourways, your norms, your practices, your conversation on a day-to-day basis, your manner of dress, your manner of speech, which in turn will change the way you move within the social construct called the United States. You follow? You just let that marinate for a minute. So these people, these elitists, can say, well, look, we need to dumb down the civilization. We need to dumb down the citizenry. Dumb it down for what? Make it more domicile. See, because it is extremely difficult to control intelligent people. It is extremely difficult to do that. So, one, I believe it was Zygmunt Brzezinski in his great book, The Grand Chessboard, he says it is much easier to control a million people today than to kill a million people today. See, because if they kill a million people, you're gonna be your arms up in the air. It's gonna be an uprising. So it's much easier to control you. So in order to control you, they have to control the information. Not only control the amount of information you are receiving, but control the content of the information. And if you ever want to get white folks excited, all you have to do is get your hands on some information that they refuse to talk about. And when you see white folks refusing to talk about certain people, let me give you for instance, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Where can you go in the United States and they are openly talking about Prophet Noble Drew Ali? I'll wait. Nowhere. Where can you openly go in the United States and they are openly talking about the Honorable Marcus Garvey? Nowhere. Where can you go in the United States and they are openly talking about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Nowhere. Where can you go in the United States and they are openly talking about, wait for it, National Grand Sheikh Joel Bratton Beck? Nowhere. Where can you go in the United States and they are openly talking about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Nowhere. Why am I bringing these individuals up? I'm bringing these individuals up because what they teach is 1,000% controversial. Anytime you hear people who are identified and commonly referred to as white folks refer to individuals as controversial, you better tune up. It is something about what they are saying that is outside of the General Education Board. That means, in a nutshell, that what is being discussed by those individuals aforementioned is absolutely for your benefit and their demise. Absolutely. For your benefit and their demise. Let's do a little scientific. Let's deal with a little science now. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. One must give way to the other. So if two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time, and one must give away to the other, and white folks, as they are called, are currently at the head of every field of human endeavor. They are at the head of education. They are at the head of the monetary system. They are currently running the United States government. They are at the head of science. They are at the head of technology. They are at the head of boxing. They are at the head of real estate. They are at the head of business. They're at the head of every field of human endeavor. They control it. They direct it. You understand? So if they're at the head and two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time, then in order for us as the Moorish nation to rise, they must fall. In order for us as the Moorish nation to rise, they, meaning white folks, must fall. They are trying to maintain a position of superiority, whether they are doing it consciously or unconsciously. They are trying to maintain their position. I just want to make that plain. So, in order for the Moorish nation to rise, Allah would have to introduce new information into the social construct called the United States. And the only way new information is going to get into the social construct called the United States, some woman somewhere is going to have to give birth to a child that will be predisposed with the new information. This is what you call divinity. A prophet will come into existence, whereas before there would be a pre-existing condition that would be so egregious to the creator that a prophet will need to be divinely prepared, divinely inspired, divinely backed to do a work within the contemporary day and on into the future. Hence, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. A man, as I said in my introduction, the only man that I know of that brought us our nationality and birthright and keys to our vast estate. This is not open for debate. We are not going to have an armchair discussion about whether this actually took place. There is enough documentation to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this man, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, number one, was in fact a prophet, in fact a Hebrew prophet, and in fact brought us our divine and national movement, also our nationality, birthright, and keys to our vast estate. That is documented. Not only is it documented through books and those individuals that love Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it is documented within the United States government. That's the backdrop of what I'm about to say. So, we're not going to waste too much time, but you know, I always got to give you one of them profound understandings because I don't want you to lose the point as to why I'm doing these demonstrations the way I'm doing these demonstrations. So I just wanted to drop that so that you get it. The reason we have these fezzes on today is because of that man, the illustrious Hebrew prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because you are well aware through, and if you weren't aware, go back and look at some of my previous demonstrations. You understand that the nationality of the Moors was stripped in 1774, that first Continental Convention, and we accepted the brands of Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian, etc. And today we wear a brand African American. This is real talk. This is not a matter of debate. These are actual facts. We accepted those brands in 1779, and that lasted until 1865 at the conclusion of the Civil War. We understand that there was a constitutional amendment passed, the 13th Amendment, with its 20 sections, ratified November the 18th, 1865 by 3/4 of the several states. This is also a matter of record. It is not up for debate. It is not how you feel, brother and sister. It is not how you feel. It is about what we can prove. And the we is our organization. Now I'm going to be very specific. The we is our organization. Watch how I say this. The Divine and National Movement of North America Incorporated, number 13, the Moorish American National Republic, under the leadership of our National Grand Chief, Joel Braden Bey. It is what we can prove. Get out your feelings. Check your feelings at the door. I'm going somewhere, as I always do. So it's what we can prove. Now, when you go to our website, Moorish American National Republic.com, this is what's going to come up. When you go to our website, Moorish American National Republic.com, this is what is going to come up. And as I instructed you in my last demonstration, I said, listen, I need you to go over here to More for You. There's a link, More for You. And then when you scroll down, it gives you a drop-down menu. And when you scroll down, you get this letter to representatives. We're going to click on the letter for representatives, and this page is going to come up. Letter to representatives. We encourage all members and students, those who are students in our School of Law and History, we encourage you, all of those within the sound of my voice, all of you who have visited our town hall every Sunday, all of you that are in our Sunday schools, all of you that are on our members forum, we want to encourage you to send this letter to your representatives. Here it is. Let's bring it up so we can see it. Okay. This is an official letter. You fill it out. You find your state representative with the hyperlink on the previous page. You see, you find your state representative. You go here, click to get a list of your representatives in Congress. You click there, you get their name, and you put it on this letter. You date it, blue ink only. Greetings, you put their name. We want you to send this to them. The two main evils of society is the lack of economic security and social stability. These two components of life have been remedied within the 4 Emancipation Proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln, which is the law of the land. We got to understand this. This is not something we've made up. It is the law of the land. You understand? This can be summed up very simply: naturalization, colonization, compensation. Now you say, well, I've never heard of this. That don't mean it don't exist, because you've never heard of it. You never saw the Creator put the sun out in space. But the fact that the sun is there, 93 million miles away from the earth, and you feeling the heat and you seeing the light of the sun, is proof that something that is superior to the sun put the sun out there. So don't come this way talking about, well, I ain't never heard of these laws. That's precisely why we have a School of Law and History, so that we can educate our people to the reality of the policy of freedom, so that you can free yourselves legislatively, meaning on paper. If laws enslaved you, then laws also free you, but you cannot enforce what you don't know. Again, the two main evils of society is the lack of economic security and social stability. These two components of life have been remedied within the four Emancipation Proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln, which is the law of the land, naturalization, colonization, compensation. These provisions constitute President Abraham Lincoln's executive will, whereby all subsequent presidents were mandated to fulfill this process. In order to eliminate racial strife, these lawful instruments must be enforced in order to save the nation. Therefore, as you, being my congressional representative, it is incumbent upon you to perform your congressional duty to bring to congressional floor these laws to be implemented and enforced. So the laws are on the books. The problem is they're not being implemented and enforced because those individuals who know of the law, Europeans have swept the law under the rug, and Asiatics are ignorant to the law. So it's a double negative on both sides of the equation. The enforcement of these acts will enable our nation of people to be recognized by any and all efforts they may make for their actual freedom. See how actual freedom is actually emboldened and capitalized and in quotes? We're drawing specific attention to actual freedom, which means you are free to move about. Let me explain it to you this way so you really understand. You have ever heard this on an airplane? You're free to move about the cabin. Now that the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, you are free to move about the cabin, but you can't leave the airplane. That's the point. You can freely move about the cabin, but you can't leave the airplane. Why? The door is still shut and locked. We might be either taxiing on the runway or we might be up 35,000 feet in the air. So you are free to move about 2,000 by 3,000 square miles of the United States geographically, but you still ain't free. You are still codified and classified as property, but you are free to move about the country. Papers, please. The slaves have always been free to move about as long as they had paperwork from their slave master that says, okay, they're authorized to be at this place at this time. But if you didn't have paperwork that authorized you to be at this place at this time, then the authorities, the slave catchers, i.e. the police, can enforce the Black Christian codes, and thereby you would be detained, if not murdered. The enforcement of these acts will enable our nation of people to be recognized by any and all efforts they may make for their actual freedom, in accordance with the January 1, 1863 Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln. This supplemental Emancipation Proclamation states, in part, the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons or any of them in any effort they may make for their actual freedom. I would like to hear from you as soon as possible on this most urgent issue, and then you will sign your name, yours in peace, in blue ink only. Blue ink only. Okay. So that is a letter we want everyone to send to their representative in the Congress, in the state, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's how I do it. That's how we should all do it. Now, if you know anything about me, and I'm thinking you're getting it now, you know I always like to come with the tangibility. I always like to come with it. See, because I want you to understand, not only do I talk, I've said this on many occasions, not only do I talk like this to Asiatics, I really talk like this to white folks. Now, I know many of you like, what? Oh, that brother don't talk like that. He's just saying that on YouTube. I am not a keyboard warrior. What I say in this platform called the Moorish Experience is how I talk in life. And I do not temper my speech by turning the intensity down when I talk to white folks. Actually, the intensity goes up when I talk to them because those are the people with so-called power. You see, because I'm of the mindset you cannot hold somebody in slavery if they don't want to be held. It's like you trying to hold a kitty cat. Yeah, kitty cat, here you go. And the cat don't want to be held today. And you pick the cat up because you're a big old strong man, big old strong woman. You pick the cat up. And that's when all hell breaks loose. The cat does not want to be held today, and it proceeds to scratch your lights out. I promise you, if you had this experience, you let the cat go. See, if you've had this experience, you don't play. You're going to get butchered. The cat is going to scratch you up and dig his claws into you until you let go. And the funny part is you always let go. So as a Moorish American, that is how I deal with Europeans. That is why I come with so much passion and intensity, because I'm going to back them up before they even get started. I'm rolling with it like, you are not going to handle me like you are used to dealing with your customary Negroes. I'm just not going to allow it. Now, what does that got to do with anything? I'm going to show you in just a minute. You see, let me share an experience with you. Most of you don't know about this experience. Matter of fact, I only shared this experience with 3 people. Okay. We have just went through what is called, a couple of days ago, we just had a Juneteenth celebration. Matter of fact, they are celebrating Juneteenth as a national federal holiday today. And many Black folks are just, they are beside themselves. They are having a good time. For those of us that got them real good corporate jobs, we get a day off with pay. Yay! Woohoo! And then we attempt to educate ourselves and our people on the significance of this Juneteenth holiday. Yeah, you see, brother, we know what it is, the word slavery in the, President Abraham Lincoln executive will, it didn't make it all the way down to all the people over there in Galveston, Texas. It didn't make it all the way down there. So when they finally got the word some 2 years later, then they had Juneteenth celebration. That's about the extent of your understanding about Juneteenth. Why? Why do I say that? Because that's what you can go online and Google. That's what you Googled. So that's what you see. That's where you understand it. But if I asked you, well, what brought all that about? What do you mean? What took place in this era of slavery? Now we start drawing a blank. You see how I just read this letter to you, and it talks about the Emancipation Proclamations. It's got an S on it. Emancipation Proclamations. See it right there? It's got an S, which means it's more than one. We don't know nothing about it. We don't know nothing about it. So we just kind of at a loss. Again, let's go here. So let's do this. Let me do this real quick. Because I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm gonna pull this up. I gotta bring Prophet Noble Drew Ali to the witness stand. I'm going to bring him to the witness stand anyway. But this is a good time to make this point. Here we go. Let me go up here. Let me get this. Let it load. Now let me get way up here. Here we go. Let me go way up here. Okay, now you see this? The reason I wanted to get this one up here because it got the big font. This is Act 6. This is the Moors' claim to fame when it comes to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There is not a Moor worth the name if they can't come to you with Act 6. Now, the problem that I have with a lot of us is we know how to read Act 6 very well. We're very good with reading Act 6. The question is, get knowledge. You see, get knowledge, and we have a lot of knowledge. But with all thy getting, get the understanding, for it is the principal thing. The question is, how do you understand Act 6? Because if you don't understand Act 6 and the various tiers of law within Act 6, then you can't enforce what you don't understand, what you don't comprehend. You can't enforce it. All you can do is read it. All you can do is talk about it with those who are familiar with it. But you cannot talk about it with those who are not familiar with it, because then you will have to explain it. And I'm finding that many of us cannot explain the prophet's literature. And you can't explain what you do not comprehend. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. It is not an option. You must proclaim it. Make it widely known, publicly known, widely spread. Some state republics have you put a notice in the newspaper. Other state republics have you get a court order to effectuate the changes in society. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. Well, what is your nationality? Moorish American. Why is this important? Where can we find this Moorish American nationality? Well, if you look at the last tier of law in Act 6, it tells you clearly the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. But you say, I'm standing in America. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, then, I'll take you at your word. But let's see if we can unpackage what Prophet Noble Drew Ali is talking about. Let's assume for the moment that Prophet Noble Drew Ali has not lost his mind. So at one point in the Earth's history, all of the landmass were connected. Will we agree with that? They were all connected. So if we are told the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Why is it a shore of Africa now? Because now where land was, there is now water. And that is how you come up on or up on the land. You have to come by water, then you get on land. Does that make sense? The shoreline. So the United States, as it is called, on the eastern shore, it is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean today. On the western shore, it is bordered by another great body of water called the Pacific Ocean today. But as I just mentioned, in ancient times, there was no water, there was just land. Due to a series of earthquakes, then the water emerged. The land began to separate. And now the land is actually moving back together. I believe it is about 4 degrees every year or something like that. So you see, this is science. This is proven. This is not me just making stuff up. So the Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. What do you mean inhabited? I was told that the Indians inhabited this land. Oh, really? Oh, really? Brother and sister, the Indians are in what is called India. Now, the national descent of those people are Indians. Now, they can't be Indians in India. This is documented fact. And then also be Indians in the United States. That dog don't hunt. I'm taking my time with you. That dog don't hunt. They are inhabited. So who are these Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa? The permanent occupants of Africa. Ancient days, this land was called Amexem. The Europeans call it Africa. So quick demonstration with the hands. Quick demonstration with the hands. So if you take both of your hands like this, I hope you can see it, and you interlock your thumbs, now your hands should be in front of your face. Now your hands are called Africa. This is what the Europeans call Africa, right? A series of earthquakes take place, and now your hands separate. The space in between both of your hands is now the Atlantic Ocean. Now, on one side, if both of your hands, when it was together, was called Africa, and then a series of earthquakes took place, and now your hands are separated, then what's on one side of the Atlantic is Africa, and what's on the other side of the Atlantic is Africa. So the Moorish Americans, who are on both sides of Africa, okay, are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. The Moabites are on both sides of the Atlantic. That's not our subject today, but I just wanted to get that out there. So with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they must know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. We're going to stop right there. So what is Prophet Noble Drew Ali telling us in a nutshell? At the First Continental Convention in 1774, the nationality of the Moors was being stripped. Why? Because there was 35 Moorish chieftains, many of them were slaveholders, and 20 Anglo-Saxons. 35 Moorish chieftains, people that look like you and I, were slave holders, slave owners in 1774. And 20 Anglo-Saxons, pale-skinned Europeans. Are you starting to get it? It is this group, these 35 Moorish chieftains and 20 Anglo-Saxons, that form we the people to form a more perfect union and establish the preamble of what is called the Free National Constitution. We're not getting into that today. That ain't our subject. But we own our subject, if you understand. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali is telling us and teaches us that our nationality was stripped at this First Continental Convention in 1774. So at the same time that our nationality is being stripped, the Articles of Association are also taking place at the same time. So in order for the European, if you will, to break off from the crown of England, Great Britain, they had to associate themselves with the Moors lawfully, the Articles of Association. Then there was a formal declaration of independence because they were desirous of being independent from the crown. Now, I need you to understand that this took several years of them coming to the Western Hemisphere, looking at what the Moors had already established in the Western Hemisphere, looking at the treaties that had already been written and agreed to with all the other European nations, and then writing the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The Moors wrote the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and it was this Treaty of Peace and Friendship that brought the United States into existence, United States of America, let me be clear, okay? So this is how we have one government with two very distinct jurisdictions, and you can see the governmental seals on the $1 bill. It is the only currency on earth that has two government seals on it. It says on one side, the Great Seal, and on the other side, it says of the United States. If you look at the pyramid and you look at the shadow on the pyramid, if you turn it upside down, you will see that the pyramid forms the circle and the number 7 is inside the circle. Not my demonstration today, but I'm just putting some things out there as it comes to me. So let's understand that they're part and parcel of this said government and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779. So what is Prophet Noble Drew Ali telling us? Your nationality was stripped in 1774, and we accepted the brands of Negro, black, colored folks, Ethiopians in 1779. And these brands lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. Well, what took place in 1865? It was the conclusion of the Civil War. And this is what brings us to our subject today, the conclusion of the Civil War. We're going to stop in Act 6 right there, because in 1865, it is taught with this general education board. They teach that, well, 1865 was the conclusion of the Civil War. Nobody would disagree that. Everybody's in agreement. Yep, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. But the why, you are totally ignorant to. Totally ignorant to, and that's what we're going to get into today. So I figured what we gave white folks, we might as well give you. They couldn't do nothing with this demonstration. I have given this demonstration to the white folks, to their face. And I've said it with the same level of passion that I'm saying it now with. The only difference is they did not have the benefit of the tangibility. And when I wanted to come with the tangibility, they were like, we need our research team to research this. This was a conversation prior to the President of the United States declaring Juneteenth a federal holiday. This is a conversation that I had with the CEO of the University of Arizona Global Campus, online university out here in the Arizona Republic. Now, keep in mind, the University of Arizona is the oldest university in the Arizona territory. They will tell you that. They're proud of it. So, hey, what a good place for me to be to demonstrate this law at the University of Arizona. global canvas. See? So we had a conversation with some Asiatics on the job, and they were trying to figure out a couple of years ago how can we celebrate, you know, Juneteenth? How can we be included, on the job with different celebrations? Because the Mexicans had Cinco de Mayo, and of course we had quote unquote Black History Month, but we wanted to do something a little different. And I usually don't get involved with all of this frolic. I really don't care. But one of our Asiatic sisters reached out to me and she said, well, look, I'm a part of the, gay community, and I pushed for us to have for the gay community to be recognized on the job. And we got Black History Month, and we got Columbus Day, and we got, President's Day, and we got all of these different things, July the 4th, etc. We want to do something for Juneteenth so we can feel included. And she asked me, would I be a part of a council to, facilitate something for Juneteenth? Sure, no problem. All right. And we did a nice little, not a Zoom, but it was kind of like Zoom team thing. What I didn't know at the time was there were Europeans in the thread verbally. I didn't know they were there listening. And I heard the Asiatic brothers and sisters talking about, well, I think we can get, the proper food in the cafeteria. Somebody mentioned something about sweet potato pies, and somebody else mentioned something about, lemonade, and somebody else wanted, different ethnic foods. And it just made my blood boil, because I'm like, here we go. See, this is all a slave can do. They want to be entertained. They want to be entertained. And because we don't know who we are, we don't have a culture. You see, we don't know who we are. We actually think we are Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians. We don't understand that these are slave marks of slavery. We don't get that part. We don't understand our national descent. We don't know because we haven't been taught, because the education board back there under John D. Rockefeller Sr. don't teach that. And if they don't teach that, then the masses of our people will never know unless Allah acts outside of this and brings us somebody to teach us. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality. So every sheik and sheikess, every deputy sheik and deputy sheikess, we have a pledge and a contract to uphold betwixt Prophet Noble Drew Ali and ourselves. We must teach our people their divine creed. We must teach our people their nationality. And if you're not going to teach their people their nationality and their divine creed, then they will never know that they are part and parcel of this said government. They won't even know what said government is. You see the importance of this? Okay, so now going back to my example. So here we go. I finally cut into the conversation. I was like, listen, stop all this frolic. I said, we are a university. Who cares about what food they serving during this time concerning Juneteenth? Why don't we educate the people on what Juneteenth actually is? Now, I'm going off. I'm snapping on everybody in this thread. And this is verbal. This is not me typing. This is verbal. They can hear me. And the sister that was leading the charge, she was like, Big T, Big T, Big T. She was trying to cut me off because she knew that the level, she didn't want the white folks who were listening to be offended by my passion, as many of you in the movement are. You get offended. I get to carrying on with that passion. You're like, ooh, he coming at us kind of intense. See, but this is who I am. Nevertheless, She was like, bruh, okay, we get that. We get that. Can you put something together? Worst thing you could ever ask. Could you put something together? I said, sure. So what I put together, I'm getting ready to show you. Now, I have never demonstrated this on this platform. You ain't heard it in town hall. Not from me. You've heard aspects of it. You haven't heard it in our members forum. I never mentioned it in the members forum. Please understand. I typed this out and I put my name on it. And I gave it to the sister. She gave it to a European who gave it to the CEO of the University of Arizona Global Campus. Remember, my name is on it. The man called me direct. And he was like, wow. Wow. He said, this is very impactful. I did not know this information. Yes, sir. He says, would it be okay if we interview you? I love that opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get it on camera. But to be fair, we're going to have to interview everybody else. The agreement was you can interview everybody else, but I'll go last. And this is my thinking, because if I go first, you're not going to hear nothing these other brothers and sisters got to say. Nothing. I'll go last. And that's exactly what they did. So what I said in the interview, you're about to see. Based on that demonstration, the CEO of the University of Arizona Global Campus said, we are going to give everybody the day off with pay to celebrate the Juneteenth celebration. This is prior to the President of the United States making it a national holiday. I need you to lock in with that. Now, that interview went down. That actually happened. Of course, I wore my fez and I had my suit on and, looking good. And the brothers and sisters that were being interviewed, they were so excited. They came in with all their little African garb and, oh, please, we laid it out. And we did the interview. After I did the interview, then I took what you are about to see. I took it and I sent it to National Grand Sheik, Joel Bratton Bay in Baltimore. Not before, I sent it after I did it. So I didn't call National Grand Sheik. Would it be all right? Be all right if I do an interview? Would be all right? They want to do this, they want to do that. What do I say? Brother. Nope. I sent it to him after it was already done. And he was like, He was like, oh, wow. He said, and I quote, brother, you are going to be the subject of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I only sent what I wrote to one other person besides him. And that was Curtis MacArthur Eel down there in the Florida Republic. Nobody else has seen it until today. And remember, this was 2 years ago. So here we go. I'm just laying the backdrop. So when I tell you to send this letter to these national representatives, that's what you need to do. Not for me, for our people. I did this demonstration again. Let me go here. Hold on. Let me find it. Let me find it. Hold on. I'm I'm gonna put it out here just so you understand where I'm coming from and you don't think I'm crazy. I want you to see where the information is coming from. Hold on, let me get it. Let me get it. I got it up here somewhere, and if I don't, I'm gonna pull it up. I don't think it's up here. Hold on. Let me go over here. Oh, oh, okay. I'm gonna pull it up. No problem. No problemo. I will get it up here. All right, let me get right to it. Now keep in mind, this is in your naturalization orientation handbook. So I don't want you to think like I'm making stuff up. I keep telling people to read the naturalization orientation handbook and the Prophet's literature. And if you don't have these things, please go to our website, MoorishAmericanNationalRepublic.com, and pick it up. It doesn't cost you too many dollars. It's very inexpensive, but the impact and the power of what you're going to have in your hands is absolutely priceless if you enforce and apply it. So let me get right here. This is the warning of 1928. You're familiar with this. But you see this right here? Let me get this paragraph right here. Let me see if I can. Nope, I gotta minimize it. Okay. See this right here? This is Prophet Noble Drew Ali talking. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of the darkness into the light. Do you understand? That's a divine instruction that we are to obey. You who doubt whether I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Have any of us followed that divine instruction? Any of us? It's just me. So you heard me demonstrate this at the University of Arizona Global Campus. You're about to see the demonstration I just gave them. I also demonstrated it to these people right here. I'm gonna just leave this on your screen. You see what that says? United States Senator Kristen Simi, Arizona. Michelle Davison, State Director and Deputy Chief of Staff. And then Jeff Wiener, State Representative. I need you to understand this. Brother and sister, you do understand that you cannot get your representatives' cards unless they hand them to you personally. You can't go to your local convenience store and just pick those up. You have to be in a certain place where these individuals are in order to get their cards. Does that make sense? I demonstrated what you are about to see in the public on microphone to them. And you know these people have handlers. They got staffs. So you just can't walk up on your representatives. You can't just walk up on them. They got security. I was able to get right up on them and I had my fez on and my suit. I was ready. But the thing is, they had a portable microphone, wireless mic. So you could see the mic just being passed around to those of us who had questions. For those of us who had questions. And you do understand, I didn't have 2 hours to demonstrate. I had maybe 5 minutes. But in 5 minutes, I was able to hit them with some information. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Because as they're trying, you could see people trying to get the microphone, but I got it. I'm 6'5", 250-pound Muslim man. When I get the microphone, you're not getting it back until I want to give it back. So I got it. So as they're trying to get it, I'm moving throughout the arena. There are 75 people in this room. And we hit them with this. I'm gonna go through it real quick, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna unpackage it. We hit them with this right here. Now we hit the CEO of the University of Arizona Global Campus with this he had this. I sent this to him. He has it. He said, I will not put this on our website because my research team has not validated the authenticity of this. I said, well, I'll be more than happy to help you with your research. See, when you talk to white folk like that, they get away from you. Like, Because in order for me to type it like that and be able to articulate it to him, I articulated it over the phone. And I was like, I can send you the amendments and the proclamations. I can send that to you. Like, let my research team do that. He says, I got them working on it. I got them working on it, but it wasn't going to be able to get up fast enough. So he allowed me to demonstrate it on camera. And that got put up on the Intra network, which is inside the company itself, inside the university itself. So I come back to work following the holiday, and your brother is on all the big TVs throughout the company. Everybody is looking at that demonstration. And this is what I put down to them. Now I typed it up so you could see it. Juneteenth commemorates notification of the January 1, 1863 Emancipation Proclamation, also called the Supplemental Emancipation Proclamation, to those still held in slavery in Galveston area of Texas. This notification took place some 29 months after the issuance of the Supplemental Proclamation. Confederate General Robert E. Lee had surrendered on April the 9th, 1865 at Appomattox Courthouse 2 months earlier in Virginia, but slavery had remained relatively unaffected in Texas until U.S. General Gordon Granger stood on the Texas soil and read General Orders Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. The entire Emancipation Proclamation is in 4, I repeat, 4 parts. Those 4 proclamations are: the initial Emancipation Proclamation dated September the 22nd, 1862, the Compensated Emancipation Proclamation, Second Annual Address to Congress dated December the 1st, 1862, Supplemental Emancipation Proclamation dated January the 1st, 1863, the Oath of Amnesty and Reconstruction dated December the 8th, 1863. Now, you are taught about this in our School of Law and History, but let us continue. So why do we know of and only celebrate the January Proclamation? What did the January 1, 1863 Proclamation do? Simply put, it emancipated the slaves in the rebellious states only. But they do not teach the importance of the September 22nd, 1862 initial proclamation, because it deals with the naturalization, colonization, and compensation of freed slaves. This was made a permanent part of the U.S. Constitution December the 15th, 1862. The vote was 78 to 52 in the House. The Supplemental Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves nationwide. The Supplemental Emancipation Proclamation allowed the newly freed slaves to fight in the Civil War to win their freedom. This single act turned the tide of the Civil War at Gettysburg in the Union's favor. 7,000 soldiers died in a half hour. The law that actually abolished involuntary servitude for the nation was the 13th Article with its 20 sections. This law passed both houses of Congress and was signed into law by President Lincoln on February the 1st, 1865. This law provided naturalization, colonization, land over 22 states, and compensation of the freed slaves. The 13th Article with 20 sections ratified by 3/4 of the several states November the 18th, 1865, which made it law and a permanent part of the U.S. Constitution, substantiates the four proclamations. The only way you can actually trace that amendment is according to Bill number SR 16. The present day 13th Amendment with two sections, 14th and 15th Amendments, were ruled unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court in a landmark decision 109 U.S. 3, October the 15th, 1883. So the initial Emancipation Proclamation that was issued some 100 days prior to the January 1st, 1863 document, that is a war measure fulfilling the 100-day notice given on September 22nd, 1862. Therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by virtue of the power in me vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure for suppressing said rebellion, do on this first day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, and in accordance with my purpose, so to do publicly proclaim for the full period of 100 days from the date first above mentioned, order and designate as the states as and parts of states wherein the people thereof respectfully are this day in rebellion against the United States in part. The president's intention was the preservation of the Union Republic, the compensation of the slaves and slave holders, and the naturalization and colonization of the freed slaves. Slaves, Asiatic and European alike, were and are classified as property. So, per the 5th article of the U.S. Constitution, it is unlawful to take a man's property without just compensation. The slavery issue was debated in the Senate March 31st, 1864. The Hebrew law. I remarked, said he, in connection that the Levitical code or the Hebrew law contains a provision for the naturalization of foreigners, whether captives of war or voluntary immigrants. By compliance with the requirements of this law, they become citizens entitled to all of the rights and privileges and immunities of native Hebrews. President Lincoln stated that it is my purpose upon the next meeting of Congress to again recommend the adoption of a practical measure tendering pecuniary aid to the free acceptance or rejection of all slave states, so called, the people whereof may not then be in rebellion against the United States, and which states may then have voluntarily adopted or thereafter may voluntarily adopt immediate or gradual abolishment of slavery within their respective limits, and that the effort to colonize persons of African descent with their consent upon this continent or elsewhere with the previously obtained consent of the governments existing there will be continued. Article 3. Congress shall appropriate money and otherwise provide for colonizing free colored persons with their own consent at any place or places within the United States. Also note that March 1862, some 6 months before the September Proclamation, the first schools for the uplift and education of those manumitted were established in Beaufort County, South Carolina. This was the prototype for the Freedmen's Bureau. Unfortunately, this process was undermined by radical Republicans and cohorts. As well, the process by which chattel property is restored to human status. Again, Lincoln stated, all slaves who shall have enjoyed actual freedom by the chances of the war at any time before the end of the rebellion shall be forever free. This plan, called gradual compensated emancipation, was to be implemented over a period of 37 years. 1 year later, the fourth proclamation, December the 8th, 1863, comes in the form of the Oath of Amnesty and Reconstruction. Due to the complexities and implicity inherent in the Civil War, this proclamation mandates that all who directly or by implication actively participated in the rebellion affirm an oath of allegiance to the Union. By default, most of the manumitted persons had actively participated through their service to their rebelling owners. The majority of the people of this country have yet to learn of this proclamation and are not aware of their present non-citizen status, the result of our forebears not affirming this oath of allegiance to the Union. Hopefully, you can see that the Juneteenth celebration is more than just a celebration of the abolishment of involuntary servitude on this land. It is a celebration of the restoration of the Union, the implementation of the laws and executive will of President Abraham Lincoln, the compensation of the slaves and the slaveholders, and the restoration of a people who have been reduced to non-human, civilly dead status in the eyes of the law. Thomas Muhammad ill. Bruh, when I put this in the hands of the employees at the University of Arizona Global Campus, they lost their mind. We were one of the first organizations in the country to recognize the Juneteenth holiday before the president of the United States came out and made it a holiday. I can't tell you the congratulatory response we got from Europeans and Asiatics alike on my job. People were coming up to me all day. Man, we got a day off with pay. Thanks, Big T. I never knew this information. So I gave this information to these people here. Hold on, let me get back to it. I gave this information to these folks. They too said the same thing. I never knew. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but now you know. If we do not teach our people these truths, this law, how then will we turn this situation around? Explain it to me. You see what I'm saying? So if you go into your naturalization orientation handbook that you can purchase and should purchase on our website here, you can read all about the executive will of President Abraham Lincoln and these these proclamations, starting with the initial Emancipation Proclamation dated September the 22nd, 1862. You see? Okay. Then that evolving into the compensated Emancipation Proclamation dated December the 1st, 1862. Then that evolving into the Supplemental Emancipation Proclamation dated January the 1st, 1863, per executive order. This is the one they do teach you about in the public school system, but they call it the Emancipation Proclamation, but they do not give you the lawful definition of the Emancipation Proclamation, because if you were to read that verbiage in a law dictionary, you would see that it says all shall remain free. And that keeps lining up with these proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln. See? And I want you to understand something about these proclamations. You see where it says highlighted in yellow, resolved, that the proclamation of the President of the United States of the date of 22nd September 1862 is warranted by the Constitution. You do understand that we're talking about this right here. And this one talks about naturalization, compensation, and colonization. Just saying, pay attention. And then that brings us to the fourth proclamation, which is the Oath of Amnesty and Reconstruction. And as I said in my last demonstration, December the 8th, 1863. So number one, President Abraham Lincoln gave the nation 37 years to implement his executive will. And what is in these proclamations? He gave them 37 years to colonize, compensate, and educate the slaves. And also for the states that were in rebellion, he gave them 37 years to align their state constitutions back to the free national constitution, which is the first 7 articles of the free national constitution. Article 4, Section 4, of which says that all states shall be governed by a Republican form of government. He gave them 37 years to do this, from 1863 to 1900. That is 37 years. He wanted it done sooner rather than later because, according to President Lincoln and the Census Bureau, it would be more Asiatics. The population of the Asiatics is on the increase. So they would have to give us more money if the longer we waited. The longer the country waits, the bigger the dollar amount is going to be. So he's like, let's get this done sooner rather than later. Let's restore the Constitution, the constitutional relationship between all of the states. Number one, let's reissue the states' rights. Number two, let's compensate the slaveholders and the slaves for their labor, and the slaveholders for their stolen property, i.e., quote unquote, black people, today referred to as African Americans, but they are still codified and classified as property. This is reality, people. So he gave the country 37 years to do this, and all these substantial presidents following him. Now you understand the executive will of President Abraham Lincoln. Then we have this issue of slavery being debated in the Senate, March 31st, 1864, the Hebrew law. Now, I just went through that, but for emphasis, I remarked, said he, in this connection, that the Levitical Code, or the Hebrew law, contains a provision for the naturalization of foreigners. What do you mean? Naturalization. That process by which one acquires nationality after birth and becomes entitled to the privileges of citizenship. Why is that necessary? Because all of the quote unquote slaves and their descendants in 2023 need to naturalize so that they can be recognized, which was the instruction given by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There is but one issue for them: to be recognized. And it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine and national movement, which is incorporated in this government. Now, I already went through that on my last demonstration. So I got some information I need to get to, and I've had it for the last two demonstrations, and I still didn't get to it. I am going to get to it today. So I'm kind of blowing through this information. So you need to get your naturalization orientation handbook out and study it. So all of these proclamations refer to us as captives of war. We are not voluntary immigrants because we are standing on our own land. Why do I say that? Because in the last tier of law in Acts 6, Prophet Noble Drew Ali makes this very plain. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. That's why. Let's go back. So now let me get back to this Hebrew law in just a minute. Give me a second. Okay, give me a second. Oh, I think this is it here. Nope, this is not it. Boom. Okay. So, by compliance with the requirements of this law, what law? The Hebrew law, not statutory law, not Arizona revised statutes, not United States codes, not the Uniform Commercial Code. By compliance with the requirements of this law, the Hebrew law, they become entitled to all of the rights and privileges of native Hebrews. They become citizens. By compliance with the requirements of this law, they become citizens entitled to all of the rights and privileges and immunities of native Hebrews. So you must naturalize in accordance with the free national constitution that Prophet Noble Drew Ali told you to obey in Act 5 of the Moorish Science Temple Divine Constitution and Bylaws. So when you go to the Free National Constitution that Prophet Noble Drew Ali mentions time and time again in the warning of 1928, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, it says to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, whether captives of war or voluntary immigrants. By compliance with the requirements of this law, they become citizens entitled to all the rights and privileges and immunities of the native Hebrews. It is the law of the land right now. This is what you are celebrating with the Juneteenth celebration. You got to know how we got to this point. You have to understand the evolutionary process. You have to understand the laws that have been passed and that are still on the books right now, upheld by the United States Supreme Court. Every judge in this country knows what I just talked to you about. Every one of them. So when you go into a courtroom talking about, well, you know, according to the United States Code and according to the Uniform Commercial Code, you wondering why you getting all this pushback. You getting pushback because you are playing around in the United States jurisdiction with the United States jurisdiction rules of operation. That is their MO. There is no way you are going to free yourself playing by the very rules that they enslaved you with. I'm just saying. Did Prophet Noble Drew Ali tell you to use a United States code to free yourself? Did he tell you to use statutory law? Did he tell you to use the Uniform Commercial Code? This wasn't even in existence. He told you in the warning of 1928, he talked about a free national constitution. He talked about a free national government, a republic. He talked to you about said government. He talked to you about the proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln. He talked to you about the 13th Amendment. He said in the warning of 1928 that the 14th and 15th Amendments do not apply to us. And you was like, why he didn't talk about the 13th? Because the law of the land that was on the books at that time was the 13th Amendment with its 20 sections. Right there. It's on the books. Again, ratified November the 18th, 1865 by 3/4 of the several states. We already ran through that. So the 13th Amendment that you have on the books right now that the de facto government keep pushing to you is the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment, they say, got rid of involuntary servitude. Now, we already covered that in my letter that I just read. The 14th Amendment gives you, they say, your quote unquote citizenship. That's what they say. The 15th Amendment gives you your voting rights. That's what they say. But the United States Supreme Court said on October the 15th, 1883, in a landmark decision 109 U.S. 3, that the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, 14th and 15th Amendments, are unconstitutional. 3 dead badges of law. So if the Supreme Court has already held on October the 15th, 1883, that the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, 14th and 15th Amendments to be unconstitutional and have no validity, and that Supreme Court and the Supreme Court has never overturned that decision, they have never rescinded that decision, then where do you go from there? You are not a citizen of the country in the true sense of the word. You are operating under a granted privilege. I know you don't think, I don't believe that. I don't know what's going on, brother. I just don't know. I just don't know. One more point, then I'm going to get to what you don't know. The radical Republicans led by Thaddeus Stevens in the House of Representatives and Charles Sumner in the Senate attempted to hinder Lincoln's plans and to severely punish the South for rebelling against the Union. To accomplish these ends, the radicals attempted to incorporate a 13th Amendment with 2 sections to the Constitution to prevent former slaveholders from receiving compensation for their confiscated human property. However, through the influence of Lincoln in the Congress, this amendment, the 13th with 20 section, was passed by both houses of Congress and signed by Lincoln on February the 1st, 1865. But following the presidential assassination, there arose among the radical Republicans a conspiracy to continue their vendetta against the South by treacherously and illegally recalling the 13th Amendment with 2 sections and forcing its ratification by the northern and western states. The southern states have never ratified it. In addition, by manipulating the former bondsmen of the nation, both the educated, such as Frederick Douglass, as well as the uneducated, these radicals devised the 14th and 15th Amendments in an attempt to cover up their plot. The 14th Amendment, in particular, denies the right of compensation for confiscated property as guaranteed in the 5th Amendment. That's why the United States Supreme Court said it has no validity. Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. Read it, which has never been repealed or modified in any way. This same 14th Amendment attempts to make citizens of people, so-called Negroes, who have not been educated to the true facts of their heritage and who have never legally proclaimed their true free ancestral name, race, nationality, and religion as is required of all foreign immigrants to this country under the provisions of the laws of naturalization. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they must know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by the slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. You understand? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? When so-called Southern whites resisted the enforcement of the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, 14th and 15th Amendments specified in the Civil Rights Act of 1875, the issue was taken to the Supreme Court in 1883, rendering the majority opinion. Justice Bradley clearly ruled that the amendments had no power to guarantee the rights of the so-called Negro. Yet, due to their brainwashed level of thinking, the so-called black folks continue to believe that they were citizens under the 14th Amendment. This misconception has persisted to this very day as a result of pacifiers such as the 1954 Supreme Court integration decision. This is why we are teaching you your nationality now and the laws that freed us. This is why, quote unquote, white folks swept these laws under the books. They're not even talking about it. They're not even talking about it. And let me give a shout out. The first man to legally move to resurrect the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. It's not that it ain't known, it just ain't known to you. The first man to legally move to resurrect the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. That's how you know a law divinely inspires individuals, because these white folks swept this under the rug. So the only way that our grand sheik, Richardson Dingle Eel, would know about this was to be one, study Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and two, for Allah to divinely inspire another individual to carry on the work of the founder. The first man to legally move to resurrect the 13th Amendment with 20 sections and the executive will of Lincoln for their eventual enforcement in the federal government was Grand Sheik Richardson Dingle Eel. I'm going to just leave that there. Get your naturalization orientation handbook out and read it. Let's continue. Not going over everything today, but we're going to go over enough. I'm wrapping it up. Believe this, brother. I'm wrapping it up. Can you believe that? You're like, what? Already? Yep, already. Backdrop. Backdrop. Pay attention. Backdrop. We segue into a different part of the demonstration. Blacks who fought for the South. I'm going to read the whole article, but I need you to pay very close and specific attention to what you're about to hear. Most historical accounts portray Southern blacks as anxiously awaiting President Abraham Lincoln's liberty dispensing troops marching south in the war between the states. But there's more to the story, as we just covered. Let's take a look at it. Now we're going to look at some more of the story. Black Confederate military units, both as freemen and slaves. Did you catch that? Black Confederate military units, both as free men and slaves, fought federal troops. That would be the Union soldiers. Louisiana free blacks gave a reason for fighting in a letter written to the New Orleans Daily Delta. The free colored population loved their home, their property, their own slaves. What? Hold on, let me read again. Let me read again. The free colored population loved their home, their property, their own slaves, and recognized no other country than Louisiana, not state, country. 50 independent nations who are under contract called the Articles of Confederation. The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. Read it and understand. The free colored population loved their home, their property, their own slave. So you mean to tell me these quote unquote black folks own slaves and recognize no other country than Louisiana? Why are they referring to it as a country? And are ready to shed their blood for her defense. They have no sympathy for abolition, no love for the North, but they have plenty for Louisiana. They will fight for her in 1861 as they fought in 1814 and 15. You go back and see what was happening in Louisiana in 1814 and 15. A hint to the wise is sufficient. As to bravery, one black scolded the commanding general of the state militia, saying, "Pardon me, general, but the only cowardly blood we have got in our veins is the white blood." General Nathan Bedford Forrest had slaves and freedmen serving in units under his command. After the war, Forrest said of the black men who served under him, "These boys stayed with me, and better Confederates did not live." Articles in Black Southerners in Gray, edited by Richard Rollins, gives numerous accounts of blacks serving as fighting men or servants in every battle from Gettysburg to Vicksburg. Professor Ed Smith, director of American Studies at American University, says Stonewall Jackson had 3,000 fully equipped black troops scattered throughout his corps at Anaheim, the war's bloodiest battle. Mr. Smith calculates that between 60,000 and 93,000 blacks served the Confederacy in some capacity. They fought for the same reason they fought in previous wars and wars afterward, to position themselves, go back up here, they had to prove they were patriots in the hope the future would be better. They hoped to be rewarded. Many knew Lincoln had little love for enslaved blacks and didn't wage war against the South for their benefit. Lincoln made that plain, saying, "I will say then that I am not, nor have ever been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and the black races. I am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race." The very words of his 1863 Emancipation Proclamation reveal his deceit and cunning. It freed those slaves held within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall be in rebellion against the United States. It didn't apply to slaves in the West Virginia and areas and states not in rebellion. Didn't I cover that earlier? Like General Ulysses Grant slaves, they had to wait for the 13th Amendment. Notice that. Grant explained why he didn't free his slaves earlier, saying good help is so hard to come by these days. Lincoln waged war to preserve the Union. The 1783 peace agreement with England, Treaty of Paris, left 13 sovereign nations, not states, nations. They came together in 1787 as principles to create a federal government. The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America, as their agent, given it specific delegated authority specified in our Constitution. Principals always retain the right to fire their agent. The South acted on that right when it seceded. Its firing on Fort Sumter federal property gave Lincoln the pretext needed for the war, and that war would be the Civil War. The war between the states through force of arms settled the question of succession, enabling the federal government to run roughshod over states' rights, specified by the Constitution's 10th Amendment, also specified in the Articles of Confederation. Each state shall retain its sovereignty. I'd like to see it erect on Richmond's Monument Avenue a statue of one of the thousands of Black Confederate soldiers, but no, Black folks are in the South talking about tear the statues down. But you don't know the history. You understand? But you don't know the history. I just wanted to drop that little something on you. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, let me get right here real quick. Do you see this? Now, 9 times out of 10, I just show this little piece right here. Notice of obligation from the 38th Congress, first session, under the Bureau of Freedmen's. Remember I read earlier about the Freedmen's Bureau, how that was established, and the terrible resistance and the backlash that came from the radical Republicans? You see what the purpose of the Freedmen's Bureau was? The United States of America in Congress signed a bill on April 12, 1864 to establish a Bureau of Freedmen for the protection of the former slaves in the southern states' financial matters. This institution was created in the Treasury Department of the United States of America. Brother and sister, these are actual facts. These are not theories. These are not my opinions. These are the facts. Now, I need you to lock in with something. We'll get it back up so you can see it. See this date? March 31st, 1864. March the 31st, 1864. April the 12th, 1864. 1 month later, actually 3 weeks later. You understand? The Hebrew law is debated in the Senate, saying that we must naturalize. That's the only way they can make us citizens. That's the only way. We were supposed to naturalize. President Lincoln passes a series of proclamations, gets the 13th Amendment with its 20 sections. It's made law and a permanent part of the Free National Constitution, November 18, 1865, ratified by 3/4 of the several states. We've covered that enough. He goes into the Treasury. They create the Freedmen's Bureau to do what? For the protection of the former slaves in the southern states' financial matters. This institution is created in the United States Treasury Department of the United States of America. I need you to keep in mind that April the 12th, 1864, there was no such thing. There was no such place called the United States. The United States is a federal corporation created with the Organic Act of 1871, placing a government in the District of Columbia. That did not exist when this took place. That did not exist when the proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln were passed into law. That did not exist when the 13th Amendment with its 20 sections were made a permanent part of the Free National Constitution. There was no such thing as a democracy at this time. We were still functioning with a Republican form of government. And according to the Free National Constitution, it says that all states, Article 4, Section 4, states that all states shall be governed by a Republican form of government. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Free National Constitution states that we shall establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Naturalization says that is the process by which one acquires nationality after birth and becomes entitled to the privileges and immunities of citizenship. The Hebrew law is being debated in the Senate, March 31st, 1864. It is also talking about naturalization. It is also saying by compliance with the requirements of this law, they, all of those who were supposed to be naturalized, become citizens. None of this took place because we were not naturalized. Why were we not naturalized? Because to naturalize us would make us true citizens of the United States of America. And then once you are a true citizen of the United States of America, you now must be compensated per President Abraham Lincoln's executive will, which is the law of the land right now. Naturalized, you were supposed to be colonized, put in the land territory of your own that you control, and you were supposed to be compensated. Do you understand what I am saying to you? So here again, this is going on in the federal government. Let's be clear about that. The executive branch, the judicial branch, you understand? This is what's happening. Let's go. So you see, its purpose was to preserve the wealth of the former slaves and the black soldiers that fought in the war to preserve this land. There were other benefits to the former slaves for this bill, which includes the ability to deposit monies into an account which was monitored by the newly incorporated Freedmen's Saving and Trust Company, approved March the 3rd, 1865. Now, brace yourself. Now, you saw me do this in my last two demonstrations. You saw me do this. United States State Department. Hold on. Let me get to it. Calm down. You saw me do something like this. You do see that's our official letterhead, right? The Moorish Science Temple, the Divine and National Movement of North America Incorporated, number 13, the Moorish American National Republic. Now, I have explained to you in the last two demonstrations that we are a body politic and corporate by Prophet Noble Drew Ali filing a religious affidavit, the affidavit of organization, okay, that established a free national government by utilizing the Heard-Smith revised statutes. Y'all get that, right? Now, who sits at the head of this free national government today? I'm gonna just wait. Who sits at the head of this free national government today? It would be our National Grand Chief, Joel Braden Bay, who resides in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm just making it plain. You can agree with it, you can not agree with it. But I want you to deal with what you're about to see. You say, brother, you showed us this letter last time. I know. I'm gonna show you something I didn't show you last time, though, in conjunction with this letter. So you see, Mike Pompeo, United States Department of State. So this would be dealing with the United States State Department. That's the point I'm trying to make. Reference, complaint, violation of U.S. Department of State, confirmation file numbers 06021189-1, 06021997-5, 06021189-2, and other documents under the file numbers, etc. Also, Department of Justice file BM stands for budget and management. You have a dollar sign there, which stands for the Treasury Department. You have House Resolution, that is the United States Congress, House Resolution. You have 1WD, that stands for the War Department, 144-35-0. State of Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation, ID number D006-07812 and T00337998. Now, this don't mean nothing if we don't give you some level of understanding with the tangibility. That's one thing we're going to do is deal with the tangibility. Put your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on. Mr. Secretary, I am writing this formal complaint on behalf of the Moorish Science Temple, the Divine and National Movement of North America Incorporated, number 13, the Moorish American National Republic. Our articles of incorporation, which I covered in the last 2 demonstrations, our articles of incorporation for profit registered with the state of Maryland's Department of Assessment and Taxation stipulates it's imperative for the maintenance of the public peace that our corporation work in conjunction with the governor of the state of Maryland, Secretary of Mental Health and Hygiene, other state agencies, as well as the federal government to mandate a national proclamation and general registration for the purpose of having naturalized all persons of Moorish descent and make them better citizens in accordance to the divine instructions of the Honorable Hebrew Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and the true policies of President Abraham Lincoln and the U.S. Constitution. Notice, true policies of President Abraham Lincoln and the U.S. Constitution. This would resolve the so-called Negro, Black, African American dilemma within the state of Maryland and every other state, nation, etc. We want your office to regulate our position in this government and have them recognize our purpose within the various state and federal agencies. Agencies such as the Department of Vital Records, Social Security, and the Department of Motor Vehicle are reluctant to honor, recognize our court orders to effectuate our changes in society. Moreover, the executive order of President Abraham Lincoln, dated September the 22nd, 1862 to 1863, Emancipation Proclamation, Law of the Land, the executive, military, and naval authority thereof is recognized, maintained, and do no act or acts to repress any of them in their effort they make for their actual freedom. We appreciate your time and effort to bring closure to this very sensitive matter. If necessary, we can meet to discuss these issues in further detail and clarify any misunderstanding. President Trump was made aware of how we can assist him in making America great. We want a square deal, your brother of the craft, yours in peace, Joel Bratton Bay, National Grand Sheik, Solicitor General. Now, many of you like, so what? I'm going to show you so what. I'm going to show you what happened when you diss him. Now, he wrote that on behalf of who? Everybody. Let me show you something. Said that to the State Department. Let me show you something. Was it received? State Department. Pay attention. Look at the little numbers up here. Look at the file numbers. 060219997-3. I told you. You said, well, you did that in the last demonstration, brother. I know. I'm going to do it again. So it's filed at the national level. It's filed at the state level. Look at the file number 0602-1189-2. Wait a minute. We're a government. I told you we're a body politic and corporate. So what does this got to do with anything? I'm gonna show you. Just hold on. Be patient. You're gonna love where this is going. I promised myself today we're gonna get it out. Out at the State Department. I showed you this in the last demonstration, that we have the ability as a government body politic and corporate to issue our own tax. I showed you that. So it's no need for me to rehash it. I just want to get it on your mind before I drop what I drop. Okay, so now I'm gonna drop what I need to drop. So let me go back over here. Nope. Let me go back. Let me find what I'm looking for. Hold on just a minute. There's another letter that I want to deal with. And if I don't have it up here, I'm going to get it up here. Nope, it's not on this file. I know it ain't. Okay, so let me go over here. Just be patient. 0602-1189-1. This is the asseveration. Filed at the state level, filed at the federal level. Y'all have seen this before. That's why I'm scrolling through it. So you ain't got to be like, well, wait a minute, brother, I want to read it. You see our naturalization orientation. Our nationality card. You see it there? File, State Department. There is the file number, BM, Budget and Management. The $ sign stands for the U.S. Treasury. House Resolution, there's your Congress. The War Department, WD. You see it. This is an agreement between 4 agencies: the Department of Defense, the Department of Treasury, the Social Security Administrations, and the Justice Department. I have went through this before, so it's not like you haven't seen this agreement. This is a recap, because when I go here, you're gonna be like, oh, this is where your mouth get ready to fall open. Let me get back to it. Where is it? Where is it? Hold on. As a matter of fact, let me go to my thumb drive. I really want to find this letter because I want to drive this letter home. Bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me, brother and sisters. Just bear with me. Hold on. I think I already got this one up here, but I just need to double check. There is a specific letter that I am looking for. Nope, this is the one I already got up here. So it is not this one. Okay, that's okay. We can close that out. And then when I go back here, it's already pulled up. Okay, let's go here. I believe I already have this one pulled up, but we're about to see. Yep, already got that one pulled up. So I don't need that one. Close that out. I really want to find this letter because it's going to really drive my point home. don't think I have it on the board. Let me see. Nope. Now it's gonna bother me all day till I get it. Nope. And it either. And I promise you, once I show you what I'm gonna show you, I'm done for the day. Oh, that's PowerPoint. I don't want that. I cannot. Now, see, this is terrible because now this is going to bother me all day. Because I know what I want, and I thought I had it up here, but I don't. Anyway, I am going to get to what I really wanted to show you because I know what I have on the screen. I am not, I'm losing it. Oh, this is terrible. Okay, that's all right. All right, I know it's not this far up. Let me get back to what I was saying. Bang, let me go back here. Okay, so now let's continue. Since I can't seem to get what I want, that's all right. I I've done this enough. I've read the information enough to where I know what it is. Let me get back. Oh no, this side. Here we go. There we go, right there. Here we go. Let's go here. Let's go here. Bang. Now, again, notice of obligation from the 38th Congress, first session under the Bureau of Freedmen, the Treasury Department, April the 12th, 1864. So as I was saying, this was debated in the Senate 3 weeks earlier. The Hebrew law, March 31st, 1864. So you get it. So now they're preserving the wealth of the former black slaves and black soldiers who fought in the Civil War, etc., etc., etc. Now watch this. So you know we talking about the Freedmen's Bureau. Okay. Let me get it to you now. Well, I need you to understand. Now I just told you and showed you in the agreement between the four agencies. You saw the HR, the initials HR. See it on your screen now. I need no. Don't boom. Let me minimize. See that right there? I'm drawing attention to it. Let's go up here. Now, if this verbiage jump off the page and catch you, if this verbiage jump off the page and catch you, if it sound like something you've heard before, pay attention. Remember, we talking about the Freedmen's Bureau, right? An act to enlarge the powers of the Freedmen's Bureau was written on January 25th, 1866. In 1866, there's also a treaty between the Choctaw Nation. You understand? As follows. The act to establish a bureau for the relief of freedmen and refugees, approved March the 3rd, 1865, shall continue in force until otherwise provided by law. I told y'all this is the law of the land, and shall extend to refugees and freedmen in all parts of the United States. And the president may divide the section of the country containing such refugees and freedmen into districts. Remember, I was telling you earlier that the proclamations of Abraham Lincoln was to colonize us. This includes the northern states as well as the South in an effort to uplift fallen humanity. Who talks like that? What is the purpose of our organization? Did not Prophet Noble Drew Ali tell you there's some confusion dealing with the purpose of the organization? And he said our purpose is to uplift fallen humanity. He tells you this in 1913. He tells you this in 1928. This is 1864. House Resolution 613, Section 2. And be it enacted that the supervision and care of said bureau shall extend to all loyal refugees and freedmen so far as the same shall be necessary to enable them as speedily as practically to become self-supporting citizens of the United States, and to aid them in making the freedom conferred by proclamation of the commander-in-chief. Would not that be President Abraham Lincoln? And they're going to confer it by proclamation, by emancipation under the laws of the states, and by constitutional amendment. Would that not be the 13th Amendment with its 20 sections available to them and beneficial to the republic, not the democracy? This is the reattachment of the people in recognition in the family of nations. There is but one issue for them: to be recognized. Now you see why a man like Prophet Noble Drew Ali had to come into existence, because this was swept under the rug, because white folks did not want to naturalize us, because that would have made us true citizens, and true citizens have to be compensated per President Abraham Lincoln's executive will. I need you to pay attention to this right here, though. See this little small print down here? Let me read it for you. Here is a copy of the agreement to return the property to the Aboriginal owners, although it does not specifically identify the Aboriginal owners. There are many documents that will identify the owners of the property. What property? What document? You see my face? Read it. Last tier of law. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. You can't make this up, people. It is what it is. The Aboriginal owners, the natives of this land. December the 13th, 1869, in House Resolution 539, the United States made their move. In House Resolution 539, the United States made their move to restore the land to the rightful owners. The bill was approved and reads as follows: to facilitate the settlement of the public lands freedmen. Be it enacted by the Senate and House Representatives, H.R. House Resolution, House Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled on any portion of the public lands of the United States open to homestead entry and shall signify the same to the Commissioner of Freedmen and Abandoned Lands. It shall be his duty to provide for the removal of said families, and the expenses of the same shall be paid out to the Treasury of the United States under such rules and regulations as the Commissioner shall prescribe. And to further prove that the so-called slaves, what? And to further prove that the so-called slaves are the aboriginals of the Americas, House Resolution 544, approved December the 13th, 1869, in the 41st Congress, second session, to establish a uniform system of naturalization to regulate proceedings under the same and for other purposes. The Hebrew law, the Free National Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, the process by which one becomes a citizen, one obtains their nationality after birth and becomes a citizen. You thought I was playing. You can't put this together like this. This is in 1869. This is decades before before Prophet Noble Drew Ali comes on the scene. Decades before. Now, do you see why they came with the Organic Act of 1871? We're going to block all of this. We're not going to allow the states, because they're really independent nations, we're not going to allow them to do this. Why? We're going to go corporate. We do not want to compensate these people, not only today, we don't want to compensate them at no time in the future. So here we are in 2023 trying to get you to proclaim your nationality so we can go right back to the United States de facto government and go, listen, you're going to enforce this. And we have 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people behind us. But no, we can't get you to put your nationality on the record officially. You go through the School of Law and History, you get your paperwork, you don't put it on the record, you put it in the closet. So now this is getting delayed more and more and more. And eventually, if we don't act on this, they're gonna be like, we ain't got no money. Well, we don't want no currency. I want them to come that way. We don't want no currency. We want gold and silver, because that's the only money. We want gold and silver. You understand? Let's continue. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States assembled in Congress that any alien, being a white person, may become a citizen of the United States on the following conditions. What are the conditions? First, such alien. See, you alien to the republic because you didn't naturalize. First, such alien shall declare an oath of affirmation. What oath? Hold on. Let me get to it. Let me make it real plain. What oath are we talking about? This one. This one right here. Not the oath of allegiance. That strips you of your nationality. They didn't have the oath of allegiance back then. This they had. Look at the date. December the 8th, 1863. So again, if General Lee and all the people in the Confederacy had to take this oath, and you are the descendant of a slave, and here they are debating it again, and they're telling you with the Freedmen's Bureau, you have to take the oath. When did you take the oath? When did you comply with the Hebrew law? Which makes you a citizen. When? Give me the date and give me the name of the person that administered it to you. Do you understand, brother and sister, there is only one man in the United States that can administer this oath? Do you think when I tell you it's one government with two jurisdictions and the head of our government is our national grand sheik, Joe Brambe, you think, what you think I'm playing? You think I'm just trying to make him feel good? No, this is real. They know who this man is. And I'm doing the best I can do to help you to see who this is. In truth. Named Joe Brambe. Yeah, that's his name, all right. But that ain't his function. Subject for another time. So, first, such alien must declare oath of affirmation before some court of record have seal and clerk of pronary, a notary of the United States, of an individual state or territory. Do you see why it is necessary for you to take your paperwork? One of the documents is the oath of amnesty and reconstruction. It says, I have proclaimed I've taken the oath of amnesty and reconstruction and proclaim my nationality. Do you understand the importance of this? Bruh, this is documented. If Deputy Sheik know this, don't you understand white folk know this? Anyway, let's keep it moving. Now, hopefully that's the part, I mean, there's more to it, but I just wanted to get that out there to help you see that how serious this is. So again, we demonstrated this to these people out here in Arizona. So please believe, brother and sister, I don't just talk to Asiatics. I talk to these people. You know that's the only way I got their card. They ain't handing these out. You have to physically be in their presence to get these. And this is what I discussed with them. So I want everybody to go here, you understand, and write your representative, send this letter to them. Again, we closing. The two main evils of society is the lack of economic security and social stability. These two components of life have been remedied within the four Emancipation Proclamations of President Abraham Lincoln, which is the law of the land, naturalization, colonization, and compensation. These provisions constitute President Abraham Lincoln's executive will, whereby all subsequent presidents were mandated to fulfill this process. In order to eliminate racial strife, these lawful instruments must be enforced in order to save the nation. Therefore, as you being my congressional representative, it is incumbent upon you to perform your congressional duty to bring to congressional floor these laws to be implemented and enforced. The enforcement of these acts will enable our nation of people to be recognized by any and all efforts they may make for their actual freedom, in accordance with the January 1, 1863 Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln. This supplemental Emancipation Proclamation states, in part, the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom. I would like to hear from you as soon as possible on this most urgent issue. That's how I get down. Now, hopefully, that made sense to you. Hopefully. So, we have now been talking about 3.5 hours. I'm done. Stand by for other demonstrations on other subjects. But this one here, hopefully you now have a better understanding of this Juneteenth celebration that is going on in the country as we speak with this federal holiday. Hopefully now you understand what led up to the Juneteenth and why we should celebrate it, but we shouldn't celebrate it the way we carrying on. We must have understanding. Now that we know, we must understand what we know. Get knowledge, but with all thy gettings, get the understanding, for it is the principal thing. May Allah bless you with the light of understanding as I leave you as I came with the greeting words of peace. Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace, peace, peace. Hopefully you have found this demonstration informative. We will see you at the next one. Peace.